They started telling me sort of a blow-by-blow account of what happened that day. The gentleman whose windshield Kapil Dev cracked was still complaining and saying that he broke my windshield and how he had to run to get his car out, and then he was followed by people, and suddenly there was a stampede in the car park. And as Kapil sir said, when I was feeling a little low about all this, he said a very beautiful thing, and I've taken that to heart, and I'm therefore not feeling bad. He said, Kabir, when we won the World Cup, we didn't get money. We got respect. And it's because of that respect that today you're making a film 38 years later about us. And this is the same respect that you're getting from making this film. So don't even worry about what happens, which theaters are open, which theaters are shut down, where is it a night curfew or not. Just enjoy the love and the respect that you're getting for the film, because ultimately that's what makes a film live in the memory of people. The velvet cloth and the real World Cup, which they're just taken from the museum, they brought in and they handed over to me and said, we would like you to shoot, with the original.
Sir, welcome to OTTplay.
Thank you, Aishwarya.
Firstly, I want to ask you, I was not there when the World Cup happened, and I've heard a lot of people talking about that Zimbabwe innings of Kapil Dev, which even they missed. A lot of people, people couldn't watch it. How did you go about that whole sequence? Because I'm sure it was tough to crack, knowing that there's no footage.
Yes, of course, it was one of the sort of toughest parts of the film to crack, also because it's also, it's very clear that it was the most anticipated. Nobody has ever seen Tunbridge Wells, and now for the first time people are going to be watching Tunbridge Wells on our film. So it was a huge responsibility for us also to be able to live up to an innings that is, it's almost mythical in its proportions in the legends of cinema, in the legends of cricket. So yes, there is no footage available for referencing. So I actually went to the Tunbridge Wells ground, Neville ground in Tunbridge Wells, and I spoke to the people over there. I actually went to the clubhouse there. It's in the Kent County. It's a beautiful little town, and I requested if I can speak to people who had seen that, and a lot of gentlemen came, and I spoke to them, and they started telling me sort of a blow-by-blow account of what happened that day. The gentleman whose windshield Kapil Dev cracked was still complaining and saying that he broke my windshield and how he had to run to get his car out, and then he was followed by people, and suddenly there was a stampede in the car park. So I just felt this kind of imagery is so fantastic, and now when people are seeing and reacting the way they are at Tunbridge Wells, I went to some of the theaters and saw people screaming and shouting, and sort of waving the flag when Tunbridge Wells is unfolded on screen. I think it's all been worth it.
And what did it mean for you, the World Cup win, as well as making this film? Because I'm sure during the research and shooting, you also unearthed a lot of lessons which would have made you, it made you fan again of the game and the whole team. And so what did it mean to you making the whole process?
I mean, it was, as I said, when once we took on the challenge of recreating one of the most iconic events in our sporting history, then there came a lot of responsibility with it also, to how to be absolutely, authentic to it. And I think this is where my documentary training, my documentary background really came to my assistance, because, I knew through my documentaries, I know how to set up the structures for research, how to sort of approach it in a certain disciplined manner. So it was 2 years of very hardcore research that went into this film in recreating the event, and I'm really happy that attention to detail and that sort of level of research is something that the audiences, those who have watched the film, are really celebrating and appreciating, and the kind of feedback we're getting about people noticing little details, even down to the way they used to tie their laces on their shoes at that point in time. I think that's really rewarding, and I'm so happy that every department's hard work is being paid off.
And another thing which has impacted a lot is usage of archival, those footage, be it photos or his videos. Was it always on your mind that you will be actually using minute milliseconds of those footage when you're actually shooting?
I did. I think that was something that I had in mind right from the beginning. And then, of course, when I was editing with Nitin, my editor, Nitin Baid, it became more, he started, looking at more possibilities and saying, okay, we can do it here, we can do it there. So I think it grew. Initially, of course, it was there on paper also on the script, but I think Nitin has taken it to a next level because the seamlessness with which he has
Yeah.
edited it is outstanding. And I think what happens is, see, I've often actually seen some films and shows that have done it, and what happens the moment that comes, the credibility of that story suddenly hits you. It suddenly hits you. Oh my God, this is such a fabulous story, but it's also true. This is exactly the way it happened. So when that realization hits you, I think that's when the goose flesh moments happen, right? That's when you realize, oh God, you're watching a film which is way more than just another film.
Yeah. And the film had a lot of brilliant, like Mohinder Amarnath playing Lala Amarnath, Malcolm Marshall's son playing himself, and a little glimpse of Sachin. So, did all these happen organically, or to just remind the next gen, like what impact did the World Cup have?
No, I think, see, at the end of the day, nothing happens by chance in a film. Everything is by design, and there's a lot of effort and thought that goes into it. So when we were sort of planning it, we did think about, yes, the fact that Malcolm Marshall's son will end up playing his father is something that we couldn't have planned for. We could have only hoped for, and that happened. That Mali came on, and he looks exactly like his father, molds like his father, and we could get him to be a part of the film. Clive Lloyd's son is also part of the film. He's playing Joel Garner because it's only in the research that we discovered that Clive Lloyd's son is a 6 feet 8 inch bowler, which is what Joel Garner was. Gordon Greenidge's son is playing his father, Carl. Carl is playing his father, Gordon Greenidge. So these kind of instances, something that you can't really plan for. These are the things that do happen and create magic. But I'm so happy that 83 is that kind of a film where everything has fallen into place, and and it's getting the kind of love that the audiences that are seeing the film is showering upon us.
And were you concerned whether the film's version of the events would transpire or replace the truth for the new generation? Because a lot of people have no idea. Like current generation, uh, they, there must be various reasons for them to watch the film. But do you think it might replace the truth?
The fact that we've not strayed away from the truth and strayed as close to the truth as possible is something that doesn't bother me. So even if this was, and I actually sometimes tell the boys, because they are being appreciated so much for representing all these iconic players that I have, so that for a large part of the audiences, you are now the face of the 1983 team. They will remember you as the 1983 team. So I think in that sense, I'm not worried about it. If this film becomes sort of part of that popular culture where whenever they think of 83, they start thinking and remembering the visuals of this film as what happened in 83. I think it's a great compliment to us as filmmakers and as a team that put it over there. And the fact that we stayed really close to the truth is something that and the thought that it can alter the what really happened at that point in time never came into us.
And where do you draw the line when it comes to catering the emotions of the fan, knowing that cricket is a religion and obviously it has a patriotic touch with love for the country, and obviously cricket is it defines something else in there. So where do you draw the line of not going overboard or sounding it like a jingoism?
So jingoism is something that inherently I think I would never be able to go into, because that's just not my DNA. That's just not my ideology. I would always, I celebrate patriotism, but I'll never sort of make it jingoistic. I think that's something that the audiences have also, in the thousands and thousands of comments that we've been getting on this, said that how they've really appreciated the fact that the film is really patriotic. It makes you feel so proud to be an Indian, but never makes you feel jingoistic, because jingoism is when you start then it's like you're patriotic, but it's at the cost of somebody. It's like if you have an enemy, or if you have to root it through that doesn't happen here. You're just proud to be an Indian, seeing the achievements of this team, and that's what true patriotism is, right? But you're celebrating your country without necessarily having a counterpoint or a villain or a enemy in the context.
And now after watching the film, people are talking about the casting being to the point. So do you think when it comes to casting process, it was like half the battle won when you actually finally saw the whole team?
Yeah, I mean, the casting was a very very big battle for sure, because I think, if the casting had not come right, if the boys had not fallen into place, representing all the players that they were, the film would not be what it is. The film would not work in such a huge way, the way it is working right now for the audiences. So in that sense, yes, it was a big one, and that's why it took, I think it took a year and a half from the first casting to the last casting, because it took us time to find people who not only looked similar to the players, and it's not really looking similar in terms of exactly the features, because I've often told them it's not a lookalike contest. You just have to get the personality right. So in that sense, that's really worked for us, and I think it that's what is making the film what it is today.
And Kavi, so what's your current state of mind now that it's been almost a week after waiting for 19 months for the film to release, and sadly there have been talks about shutting down of theaters.
That's, we have waited with this film for close to 2 years, and we were really keen that we come out at a time where maybe the pandemic is on the wane and we get a correct time to be able to showcase it in all the theaters. But I think this is the world we are living in. The whole world is being affected by the pandemic so badly. I think nobody can predict correctly what's going to happen, and it's really unfortunate that the day we release, from that day itself, suddenly the Omicron wave, it really took off from the very day itself of release. Two states announced a night curfew. By the second day, another 3-4 had been added. By the fourth day of release, Delhi, all the theaters have shut down, and that's a large part of our box office. So, but I guess these are things out of our control, and it's such a larger event that's overtaken the entire planet that I would feel really petty now sitting and complaining about that. I can only look at the positives. I can only look at the fact that the film has got unprecedented appreciation and love. It's like unbelievable, the kind of love that's constantly pouring in for the film. And it's a film that's definitely now been established as a film that will have a very very long life. People will, wherever the theaters are open, I'm hoping people are still going to go. They're going to take their precautions, and they're still going to go, because watching this film on a big screen is a completely different experience, and it's an experience that can never be replicated. So I'm sure that people, wherever the theaters are open and available, will continue going. Yes, of course, we are in a bit of a uphill struggle against the pandemic, and with every day, there are restrictions coming in, and rules coming in, which are hitting the box office more and more. But it's fine. The film is for posterity. It'll be enjoyed for years to come. And as Kapil sir said, when I was feeling a little low about all this, he said a very beautiful thing, and I've taken that to heart, and I'm therefore not feeling bad. He said, Kabir, when we won the World Cup, we didn't get money. We got respect. And it's because of that respect that today you're making a film 38 years later about us. And this is the same respect that you're getting from making this film. So don't even worry about what happens, which theaters are open, which theaters are shut down, where is it a night curfew or not. Just enjoy the love and the respect that you're getting for the film, because ultimately that's what makes a film live in the memory of people.
And I want to know, how did you shoot the climax shot? Because Ranveer Singh in a recent interview said that Clive Lloyd was there and the whole emotions, and how was the whole vibe? Like, how would you describe the whole vibe by shooting the sequence where finally lifting the World Cup?
I mean, it was magical. I mean, what Ranveer is mentioning is an incident where Clive Lloyd came onto a set, and I've often said this is a film that's been sort of blessed by the gods of cricket. These legends used to just randomly stroll around on our set when we were shooting. So it happened the day that we were shooting in Lords. It was anyway, it was a bit of a magical moment for us, where we were shooting in Lords, on the very particular spot where Kapil Dev lifted up the World Cup. We were standing there. We had recreated everything because there's video footage, so we had taken great attention to detail to recreate everything. It was exactly the way it was in 1983. And then before I could roll, suddenly Clive Lloyd strolls in and sits next to me. And I'm looking at him like I'm shocked. And I said, "Sir, do you want to, sit a little closer to where the shot is being taken?" And he looked at me with a straight face and said, "Do you want me to see the World Cup being taken away for the second time?" And then he smiled. And then, after that, something even more incredible happened. That just as I was about to take the shot of the World Cup being given to Kapil Dev, these two ladies, with white gloves, strolled and brought a trolley in, covered with a velvet cloth, and they removed the velvet cloth, and the real World Cup, which they just taken from the museum, they brought in and they handed over to me and said, "We would like you to shoot, with the original." And I was like, completely, I got goose flesh, and I held it. I went straight to Ranveer and I gave it to him, and I called action. The scene was enacted out, and the moment I said cut, everybody on that balcony started crying. It was so overwhelming. They just put the cup down, and everyone broke down. So I think that was a very special moment.
And I want to know your approach of toning it down to non-cricket fans. Do you think it has worked?
I think in a huge way. I think the strongest reactions that I've got are from people who have not, who don't watch cricket. From women who have not watched cricket, and they've gone and they've gotten so emotionally, moved by this film. So in that sense, that was always going to be an uphill task for us. And I think I'm really happy that that's the reaction I've got from people who don't watch cricket, and they said, it's not about the sport. It's just you're so drawn into the story of the team, of the people. It's just emotionally they draw you in. After that, it's not about what they're playing. They could be playing kabaddi for all they care, but as long as the human story is what really draws them in. So that's been very, very nice to hear from people.
And so you started as a documentary filmmaker, then you made mainstream movies and even got into OTT space. So as a filmmaker, how do you find these mediums different?
I think they are different, yet they're similar, because ultimately it's about telling a story, right? And I believe every story, in a certain sense, dictates its own treatment. There are certain stories that need a longer time, longer formats. You need to develop characters in a longer time frame. And if the story is like that, then it's probably best said on an OTT platform. There are some stories where I think they're better suited to a shorter format like a film. So it's I think too much is actually discussed and said about this whole difference between OTT and thing and theatrical. I think as a filmmaker, I'm just really happy that we have multiple formats to be able to tell stories on, and that's what ultimately we need, right? Lots of platforms to tell stories on, and same goes for documentaries. I think there are some stories which are best told as a documentary format, and if ever that kind of a story were to come to me, I would do that.
So what's next? Is it a web space or a movie?
Actually, I'm discussing ideas. So there are some ideas on the web space. There are some ideas that are for theatrical release. So ultimately, it depends on when things fall into place, which one I feel is better executed earlier. So I'm open to both. Absolutely, I'm open to web space. I'm open to theatrical. So it all depends on the story. It all depends on the timing. At any given moment in time, we are always talking about 2 projects, 3 projects. So it all depends on when it all finally comes together.
So are you making Kandahar hijacking series?
That is definitely one of the projects that I'm talking to Netflix about. There's no sort of official confirmation as yet. I think that will happen if things fall into place, and the moment that happens, we will announce and maybe start work on that. But it is definitely, yes, one of the projects that we have been discussing.
And another one which is like a topic of discussion is Salman confirming Bajrangi Bhaijaan.
Yeah. That also, I mean, Vijayendra Prasad ji is writing a script right now. So again, nothing. A project is only confirmed once everything falls into place. The script is locked. As a director, I sit with the actor and we sort of get equally excited and then say, "Well, let's do." Till then, the conversations, we are having multiple conversations always, right? Because at the end of the day, all of us are in a creative field. Whenever we meet, we talk ideas, stories, scripts. all of them don't always materialize. Every film has its own destiny. So I think, as and when things fall into place, I'll be announcing what I'm doing next.
Thank you so much, Kabir. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.